Alright, since one of the #1 complaints I get about my videos is lack of production quality and how I need to put more effort into that, things like background music, editing, what have you. If you can see in the reflection in the glass, I'm just one guy who does everything by a cell phone. But today, we're going to try and address one of those concerns. Since YouTube is ridiculously finicky about what constitutes copyrighted music, this is the only way I can think of. 100-some-odd-year-old phonograph cylinder. There, background music. And today's vehicle, as I was showcasing earlier, is a 1950 Rolls Royce Silver Wraith Limousine that, if you'll notice, the wheels and platform sits on the chassis from a 1991 Dodge truck. Under the hood here is what makes this thing special. Cummins turbo diesel. Mated to a 5-speed manual transmission. The seats that will go in this are out of an 80s Mercedes. I haven't yet mocked it up. Battery box had to be relocated to the floor beneath the pedals. Otherwise, these gauges are somewhat functional. That's the makeshift headlight switch. But the wheel does steer it. It cranks, it'll run, but I'm working on an adapter so that way I can run the hoses. It's somewhat functional. The original Dodge gas tank is there in the back. There, you can see that. A little bit better, at least this way. I've got the rear gate mounted on correctly. It would shut properly if it had the mechanisms in and the parts weren't missing. This is the donor Mercedes that the seats came from. It got new seats. New wheels are scheduled to arrive tomorrow, so it's on stands. This will have to do for now. Let's see if the battery has any juice left. I don't think so. And sorry about the shaky camera. Nope. Battery's dead, so I can't crank it over and show it runs. I'll reconnect that later. The clutch slave broke in the process of installing it and has to be fixed, and a few other little things have to be taken care of. The brake boosters in the back seat of the car. But you'll notice it does fit in here. The fan is off of a Lincoln Mark 8, just temporarily wired in. I'm keeping the voltage regulator because I want to run it as a simple one-wire Cummins setup. Functional hot rod radiator for a Model A Ford running a 5.7 350. Volumetrically, that should be adequate for 5.9 Cummins. But due to the very limited space, if you can see how it barely clears down here, this is part of why I can't run an intercooler in the correct location and had to specifically go with a non-intercooled engine. Now, the slats on the grill are spring-loaded, so if this thing ever did see cold weather, oh dang it, ran out of cylinder, I would not have to worry about warmer or any form of insulation. I've removed the windshield wiper assemblies. I will be reinstalling those shortly. But it's coming along, though it presents unique challenges. In removing the divider window, I've also pulled out the jump seats and set those aside to deal with later. They will be going back in. That's why the replacement floor is only tacked in spots. Otherwise, it's solid reinforced steel. This was the original truck bench, but it was too big for the front. I may use that for the back seat or the Mercedes. I still haven't decided fully. But as I was stating, if you look across, you can see it's just a 2x4, as all these cars had from the factory for support. The entire inside was made of wood. These doors, wooden. So, while it's shored up, it needs to have a steel bar made up that goes across and connects. This is where the trafficator would go if it were installed at the moment. I have them. They're in semi-functional order, just not presently in the car. This should do for now. Oh, right. The frame here, as you can see, has been modified. It does have an exhaust on it. I haven't, as of yet, finished the installation. These are the modified brackets to allow the springs to hang, the Dana 70 rear end. Between the 410 gears that the truck is running, this thing ought to be quite the beast of a hauler, so it's my intent to use it simultaneously as a pleasure transport vehicle and to tow all of my other project vehicles. I'm missing the hood ornament for it that just screws onto here, and that's one of the last things I'm going to buy just due to the cost. But I do like how by using the Cummins 6, it fills up the engine bay quite nicely, and it's still relatively easy to work on. If fit and finish seems a bit off, it is. I will get there in the near future when problems like this are corrected, the missing gasket for the windshield is replaced, and everything else is done. But the main point is it's proof of concept for fitting it inside the car, and shoring up these center pillars is the primary concern before I attempt to fit the interior. I will have to replace every bit of wood in this car with proper materials, but the floor is solidly welded with the exception of the jump seat spot, battery box. In due time, this thing, while it does technically run and drive at the moment, it will actually be running and driving properly in the near future.